You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with Leona Mirali and Christina Patterson. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, to ban or not to ban, The Observer reports the Prime Minister is under pressure to follow Australia and block social media for under-16s. An exclusive from The Sun, the family of Virginia Giuffre speaks to the paper after police dropped a probe into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The Mail reports Labour rebels who are trying to topple Sir Keir Starmer could be on the verge of a breakthrough. And the Sunday Telegraph reports Tories will scrap the 2030 ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars if the party wins the next election. An investigation from the Sunday Express claims illegal migrants are getting help setting up businesses as part of a taxpayer-funded farce. The Home Secretary expected to announce a major crackdown on sex offenders, according to an exclusive report from the Daily Mirror. Sunday People says the Health Secretary is urging people to protect themselves as Britain prepares for a tsunami of flu cases. And we are joined by Leon and Christina. Welcome to you both. I'm going to start with the Sunday Mirror and that story of the Home Secretary's crackdown on violence against women and girls. Christina.
Yes, well, what we might call the succession battle continues with Shabana Mahmood positioning herself possibly as a potential leader. She is an incredibly good communicator and she has an enormous amount of courage, and her latest and she is able to say things that other people in the cabinet have not felt able to say. So in the last few weeks we've had her announcements about reforming the whole asylum system, perhaps modelling ourselves on Denmark and maybe even going further on various fronts. And this announcement is about dealing with sex offenders, and particularly in relation to the human rights laws that have apparently been holding us back in certain ways. So she has mentioned, for example, a case of, I think, a Polish man who used human rights law to ensure that he stayed in the country because of he claimed to be a father figure to some person who was not actually his son. So this is kind of bringing together a number of different stories, because it's partly about what they've been talking about in the past week, which is looking at the Refugee Convention, and European countries have been looking at how they might rewrite certain clauses in it to make it less easy for people to use aspects of human rights law that have been very much seemed ridiculous, actually. Some of the examples that have been used in, particularly the Red Tops, have seemed completely crazy about the rights that some of these people have been able to claim to stop them from being deported when they have committed crimes. But I think where she has a unique voice and a unique ability is, A, that she's completely passionate about this. I have no doubt that she's genuinely passionate about going further in protecting women from violence. And as we know, there is an enormous amount of violence against women and girls, and the law has proved to be, sadly, very ineffective in all kinds of ways. The prosecution rates, successful prosecutions for rapes and sexual assaults, are very low. But the other advantage she has here is that she is of Pakistani background, and she gave a very moving speech in the House of Commons the other day about being called the P word and all the racial abuse that she and her family have received over the years. So she is able to speak out with great courage about, for example, the grooming gangs that have got Labour into so much trouble, and indeed the Tories into so much trouble. That was pushed under the carpet, and very brave journalists, one of whom has very sadly died, Times journalist, I'm afraid I can't remember his name at this moment, did huge amounts of work in uncovering the scale of that scandal. So I think all of this adds to the sense that this is a woman who is grasping the metal and really kind of wading into areas that are very sensitive and have been difficult for other people to handle. And she is really a law and order Home Secretary. I think she's hugely impressive.
The Sunday Telegraph, the quote from her, she says, "For too long, the human rights of foreign sex offenders have been prioritised over the safety of British women and girls. I share the public's fury at such outrageous abuses of our legal system and will bring this circus to an end." Very strong words.
Really strong words. And I think, actually, we might see the Reform UK Twitter account, again mocking up images of Shabana Mahmood in a Reform football shirt with pictures of Nigel Farage on her wall, because it is that type of rhetoric, again, that will appeal to those on the right, certainly of the Labour Party, but indeed in the country. I agree with you. I think she's a really interesting, impressive politician, Christina. There's a couple of questions I've got about this particular policy, in particular, how much is it going to cost? There's talk about putting specialist units for every police force, and we know there's also talk of police forces being cut down. Questions about actual trust in police to deliver on this. You know, there's been a number of high-profile issues. Sarah Everard as the primary one of trust being eroded in the police to deal with these types of issues. And then finally, the reforms of the European Convention on Human Rights that would have to come into place for this policy to be workable, in particular those reforms to the right to a family life. You know, that again is an issue that splits a lot in the Labour Party. So I think absolutely, you know, the right kinds of words, and I think strong words that will appeal to the public. How workable this policy is, I'm not sure yet, but I hear she's a very capable operator, Shabana Mahmood, and can get things done. And there's no reason to believe she won't be able to do the same on this.
Christina, do you think it's slightly alarmist when she's declaring this is a national emergency, as quoted on the front page of the Mirror?
Well, look, it's rhetoric, isn't it? And if you want to cut through on the communication front, it probably is not unhelpful to use phrases like national emergency. And if you are a woman who has been on the receiving end of violence, or if you live in one of these towns where there have been mass grooming gangs, and the whole effect of it has not only filtered into into the lives of many people, but the reputation of the towns has also been tarnished, and race relations have been, severely harmed. I think it is an emergency, but where I think she's absolutely right that it's an emergency, actually, I mean, I personally think the real emergency is the rise of reform. And of course, all of this stuff plays into the hands of reform. So I think she's being politically very astute in saying that, because in terms of women, is it a national emergency? I don't know, discuss. But is the kind of rising tide of racism and tarnishing all immigrants as illegal and violent and committing sexual assault? I think that is an emergency. And I think if she seemed to be tackling it, that could be very helpful.
Leon, take us to the Sunday People. Wes Streeting, the quote from him there, Britain facing tsunami of flu. And we know that he's going head-to-head with the unions over the impending resident doctors' strike due to start next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of the COVID years, isn't it? Wes Streeting has said that hospital admissions are 50% up on the previous year, and there is more to come, which is worrying, I think, and it does echo the pandemic kind of rhetoric. I think there's an issue with the public's willingness to conform to the types of advice that's coming out around things like masks and flu vaccinations. I think that comes a lot from fatigue and just a general disliking of what happened during the pandemic for a lot of people. So I think there's an issue with actually getting this under control. Obviously, the bigger story here is the junior doctors, the resident doctors, as I should say, who are striking. And, I think there is an issue with the ability of the NHS to deal with these pressures. Because, we get our seasonal spikes of flu, but looking at the long-term impact, we've got an ageing population, a less healthy population by many metrics, and the NHS is not going to recover. We're spending more and more money on the NHS, close to £200 billion a year, and yet we are not necessarily seeing, as taxpayers, the kind of service we would expect from that level of output. So I think there is a real issue with efficiency in the NHS, and can it cope with these big spikes in things like flu? It's looking like it's really much at breaking point.
Christina, do you think the strikes will go ahead?
I really hope they don't. I really hope they don't. I think there are issues about training for resident doctors, and Wes Streeting has addressed those to some extent in his latest proposals. But I'm afraid I do also think the junior resident doctors have already had 29... Well, I mean, I feel like saying primary school doctors at the moment, because some of them are behaving so childishly. They've had a 29% increase. They're still demanding more. They are totally out of touch with what most people have not had their pay increase much since 2007. There certainly is a cost of living crisis in this country, but it's not resident doctors who are paying the highest price of that. I think they have been radicalised. I think they've been taken over by a very, very political wing. I think it's not serving them. It's making them unpopular with fellow workers in the NHS and with the public. And the public have generally always been very supportive of resident doctors. And of course, if they do go ahead with the strike, that could be really awful, not just for the NHS, but for people. You know, flu can kill people. It does kill people,
absolutely.
particularly older people. So if they do go ahead, I think they'd be really, really unwise.
Yes, and certainly public opinion not on their side this time round. Christine and Leon, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to take a break. Coming up, we'll be discussing the story in The Telegraph on how the Tories plan to ditch the ban on petrol cars. Stay with us.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No,
Do you...
he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
A show of military might and menace. Why should the West trust you?
Frankly, I don't care whether the West trusts us or not.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Have a quick word for Sky News. Is the West right? Are you fueling Russia's war machine? American journalist Evan Gershkovich is on trial here, but was first on display. I'm Ivor Bennett, Sky's Moscow correspondent.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report, and this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Just want to update you on the breaking news we brought you a short time ago, and that is the active shooting at Brown University, Rhode Island campus. Police are now saying that multiple people have been shot in the area of Brown University. It is an active investigation. They're advising people to shelter in place or avoid the area until further notice. They're also saying, this is according to 3 senior law enforcement officials, that have briefed on the investigation, that preliminary reports are suggesting that 2 people are believed to be dead and as many as 20 are injured, but not all of those may be gunshot victims. Again, they are reiterating this is a very active, please be clear that the information is fluid and subject to change. There was a previous incorrect report from the university that there was a suspect in custody, but that is not the case. No one is in custody, and police are still actively seeking a shooter or shooters as we speak. Just looking to see if there's any further update on that. They're advising people to remain away from Barras and Holly area. There is no suspect in custody, as I was saying, and they're continuing their search for a suspect or suspects. And Brown University are coordinating with multiple law enforcement agencies on site. Those pictures that you see, the live situation unfolding as we speak. We will, of course, keep you updated on that situation throughout the course of the evening. Well, you are watching the press preview now, and still with me, Christina Patterson and Leon Emirali. Let's continue. The next story we're having a look at is the front page of the Telegraph, and surgeons operating 1 day a week. Leon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a sort of overlap, really, of the story we spoke about with the flu crisis in the NHS. But the strikes obviously are leading, I think, to uncertainty about the NHS's ability to sort of deal with the challenges it currently faces. You know, I think that Wes Streeting is playing quite an interesting game here. He's clearly got leadership ambitions, as do a number of the Labour politicians we're speaking about this evening. But, you know, ultimately positioning himself in the middle of the hard left, who, you know, obviously in the unions will be supporting these strikes, and then those who in the public who are less likely to be supportive. So I do think it's a difficult line for him to play, and it would be interesting to see how he comes out of it.
Christina?
Yeah, I mean, it's just shocking that some surgeons are only operating 1 day a week. I spend quite a lot of time in Italy. I was born in Italy, and I mean, I don't have access to, I'm not an Italian citizen, but we've got friends who you know, obviously have ill health and use the Italian healthcare system a lot. It seems to me that many European healthcare systems are infinitely more efficient and impressive than ours is. And I know that, you know, we are meant to be very proud of the NHS, and of course, you know, it is a fantastic achievement to be providing healthcare free at the point of delivery to the entire population. And many of the people working in it are extremely impressive. But as a system, I'm not sure that it is working fantastically well at the moment. And when you see people, elderly people, in corridors for days on end. This happened during COVID. It's happening again now in a hospital in East London, and it will certainly be happening in the run-up to Christmas if the flu rates continue, and particularly if the resident doctors go on strike. I think this just is not acceptable for surgeons, and it's not because they don't want to. It's because, you know, according to this report, it's because they are unable to step into an operating theatre for all kinds of other reasons. The system just is not efficient, and I do believe that Wes Streeting is committed to it, but people keep trying, and it's like this enormous behemoth that nobody can quite control.
The surgeons are saying that they're under immense strain. It's not that they lack the skill or anything, it's just that they're under immense strain. Let's move on to the Mail and take us back to politics, potentially somebody else who's on manoeuvres, Andy Burnham. He still wants to return as an MP before May's local elections.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
This according to the Sunday Times.
Indeed, and on the front of the Mail as well. So maybe there's something to it. But what I find interesting about Burnham is he has got the least viable route to becoming leader compared to some of the other candidates that names are being mentioned. Because ultimately, yes, he has to win his seat in Parliament, but can't Keir Starmer, or more to the point, the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, just block him from being a candidate? You know, I think it's fanciful to think that Burnham could so easily return to Parliament before May and then somehow immediately go into launching a leadership bid. I just can't see the logistics of that working when you've got people like streeting Rayner and Mahmood, who are in much better positions to be able to challenge Starmer, if indeed that was ever even to happen. So I think it's a little bit of silly season reporting to some degree. I'm sure Burnham wants to come back and wants to be Prime Minister, and he may well do it, but I just think that there's a lot of resistance in his path before that becomes viable.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time. I just want to update people on that breaking news. Coming out of the United States, the Rhode Island campus of Brown University, they are saying that people should continue to shelter in the vicinity and remain away from Barris and Holly area. They do not have a suspect in custody, and they're continuing to search for a suspect or suspects. 3 senior law enforcement officials that have briefed on the investigation so far say that preliminarily 2 people are believed to be dead and as many as 20 are injured, but not all of those may be gunshot victims. We would just stress that that is initial information and certainly not confirmed, as this is a very active situation and ongoing. We've got a social media post from Donald Trump that's just come in, and he has said, "I've been briefed on the shooting that took place at Brown University in Rhode Island. The FBI is on the scene." In this quote, the president is saying the suspect is in custody, but we have had that obviously changed by police who say that they are still searching for a suspect. Donald Trump says, "God bless the victims and the families of the victims." We'll, of course, keep you updated on this story throughout the course of the evening.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.